Hi guys, welcome to another Road Pilgrim video, and today we actually have the KIA Niro Hybrid on review with us today. And the KIA Niro Hybrid is actually a pretty interesting car for Singapore because in Singapore we are very obsessed about fuel economy, and the KIA Niro Hybrid just happens to be one of the most economical cars in the market today. And what's even more interesting about the car is that although it is geared for fuel economy, this car actually doesn't run on a CVT and actually runs a dual clutch transmission. So that's pretty special, and I think we are quite excited to see how it drives. What we're going to do for today's review is that I'm going to show you a little bit of the outside, and I'm going to bring you through a walkthrough of the interior. And this is actually a pretty well equipped car as well for the price that you pay. And then of course we are going to take it for a drive. So let's go. Okay guys, so let's get started with this review, and here you have the exterior of the KIA Niro Hybrid. And as you can see, this is a very good looking car. You know, most cars in the entry segment, they are quite plainly designed and they are quite simply designed, quite utilitarian if you will. But you can see that the KIA Niro Hybrid, immediately, this is not a utilitarian car. You've got this really nice headlamps over here. These are your daytime running lights. I think they're pretty fancy. The general car has a rather rugged look to it as well, and you can see that where other brands would have put those dull grey claddings, you've actually got a gloss finish cladding, which is actually pretty nice. I'm going to walk around the car now and show it to you. You've got some very nicely designed rear lights as well. The one thing that I would have preferred to see would have been nicer looking wheels or larger looking wheels. These actually are 16-inch standards, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 16 inches. And I think they were fitted to the car probably with the intention of achieving a higher rate of fuel economy or a better fuel economy. So I guess they're leaving it up to the consumers to make their own modifications if they would, you know, deem that they would like a nicer looking car. But I think the general shape of the car, you can see, if you were to fit nicer 18-inch or maybe like 19-inch wheels, I'm not too sure, 18 probably, 18-inch wheels, the economy would suffer a little bit, but I think the car would look so great. So what what consumers want is a car that has the potential to be whatever you want it to be, right? So if you're not too fussed about the appearance of the car, you can leave the car in the stock 16 inches. But if you want the car to look a little bit better, then I think this car gives you a good stepping stone or a good platform to actually, improve the looks of the car as well, make it a lot more sporty. For those of you who don't know, this is actually the new Kia logo. It's been changed. And what you see here is actually the SX variant, and in Singapore the SX variant is actually the top of the line variant that you can buy, and it actually comes with quite a lot more equipment than the EX variant, which is just one step down. In fact, what I've been told is that there are about 20 different items or 20 different pieces of equipment, both visible and not visible, that are available on the SX and not the EX. So although yes, the SX does cost quite a little bit more money to buy, but I think this is probably the variant to go for if you're looking for a car that is well-rounded and is going to fit your needs in Singapore. Alright, let's go take a look at the inside. So because this kind of falls into the category of family car, no, it's not open. Okay, let me just unlock the back. There we go. I thought I would show you the rear as well. So the seat is actually, the driver's seat is in my usual driving position, and I'm 175 meters tall. And you can actually see that the foot space, or the leg room, is quite humongous. So space utilization in the KIA Niro Hybrid is actually pretty top notch. Over at the back, and when I say the back, I mean the rear. Oh wow, automatic tailgate. You've got a pretty sizable boot. It will probably fit about 2 large suitcases at the bottom, along with some duffel bags or smaller suitcases on the top. Is there anything below? It says yes, there's some stuff underneath. There is a little bit of a load lip here for you to lift stuff over. So that's not ideal, but I see some ridges here. So I believe that this boot floor can be raised. I don't know how to at the moment, I'll have to figure it out, but I think the boot floor can be raised, and that should give you a, not a completely flat, but a flatter sort of load lip. Auto close. Let's move on to the front. Wow, these are, I digress, but here are some, this is a really nice looking side mirror. The signal, turn signals over here. Alright, so inside the car, you actually have a very nice modern interior that is completely in line with the Kia interiors that you see today. I think with the EV6, we'll jump in here. Alright, let's sit back a little bit, let's move more space. So around the interior, you've got this nice swooping dash design, and your mirror controls and your window controls are actually on this platform here, which when you're driving is actually super convenient. It's actually super ergonomically sound and makes a lot of sense. In fact, they're very easy to reach, they're not confusing, they're not too far from your eye line. You've got memory seats up here as well. Pretty premium actually. You've got a nice digital driver's display. Ignore the low tire pressure, that's just something that we haven't reset yet, but everything's fine. And then of course we've got this infotainment unit, touchscreen infotainment unit that looks like it's actually one complete piece with the driver's instrument. There's actually a lot of equipment in this car. We've even got things like ventilated seats. My personal favorite is, and as you can see, this is up at full blast because in Singapore, you know, we just love our ventilated seats. Even the air condition controls, you know, pretty nifty. They're pretty nice, pretty premium. We've got a rotary gear selector here. What else do we have? You have all your cruise control, assist here, your lane keep assist. This looks like it's going to be an adaptive cruise control button. So quite a number of things that you can find in the car. And a pretty nice interior there. Alright, so with that, let me show you how the car is like to drive. Alright guys, so now we are driving along in the Kia Niro Hybrid, and from a driver's perspective, I think it's a pretty nice place to be. You've got your infotainment system right here, touchscreen infotainment, and your driver's instrument panel right here, and these are both digital, so it's very nice, very modern. And in its default setting, if you're not running any programs in the background, the infotainment unit actually has this nice, very simple purple and black sort of home screen, and this is very nice because it's actually not distracting at all. It's very focused, very neat. And I think the entire architecture of the interior in the Kia Niro Hybrid is actually pretty modern. I like it very much. They have been, Kia specifically have been upping their game when it comes to their design over the last couple of years, and I think it really shows. You know, earlier on we showed you the exterior as well, and now the interior is also pretty cool. But I digress from the main point. Now we are in the driving segment, so I really want to tell you about how the car is like to drive, because I do think that the Kia Niro Hybrid is a very interesting value proposition when it comes to driving dynamics. The first thing you need to know is that this car runs on a dual clutch transmission, and although dual clutch transmissions are pretty common in the industry right now, they are not very common in this segment of cars. So a lot of the Japanese Korean mix, entry-level Korean mix and Japanese mix that you find in the market still run on CVTs, and that's always been their philosophy for economy. And this being a hybrid, obviously there is economy in mind as well. In fact, if you remember from when the time the Niro Hybrid was first launched, I think Kia did a sort of a marketing campaign where they got many different test drive customers to actually cover a large amount of distance, like sort of like a relay race. And I think in Singapore they managed to clock 980 kilometers on one tank of fuel, which is pretty remarkable. On paper, Kia says that the Niro Hybrid will do about 19.6, but I think it probably will. I'm not sure, whether or not it will really do 19.6, but it is definitely going to be quite economical. Some of you might also remember that some time ago, I actually test drove the Corolla Cross Hybrid, and I did a sort of experiment with Toyota where I drove the car around the island for like 18 hours and I clocked about 1,015 if I'm not mistaken. 10, or is it 1151? Something to that effect. So about 1,100 kilometers on one single tank of fuel, and I think this Niro Hybrid sits in probably a very similar segment to the Corolla Cross. But I want to bring out a few differences as well, because the Corolla Cross runs on a CVT, which, as we know, around town and at slower speeds of up to 70-80 kilometers per hour, that is a very, very economical setup to have. The Niro Hybrid running on a dual clutch is definitely not going to be as economical in town, but on longer distances where the car has time to reach a constant speed, higher speeds, and settle down into its top gear, I can see the Niro Hybrid being comparably economical on long distance drives, which I think is something that you really want to kind of take note of if you are using the car for longer distances, or if you have the habit of going up to Malaysia for family holidays or for driving road trips, right? So I think it's not so clear cut as like which car is more economical on paper, but I think it also really depends on what you use it for. The other thing that you want to take note is that although the Niro Hybrid is probably not quite as economical as a hybrid CVT, the driving dynamics that you get from the dual clutch is astronomically better. So if you know anything about cars, or if you've been driving for some time now, you probably know that CVTs are extremely smooth and CVTs are probably quite economical, but they do lack that driving dynamic that is often present with torque converters or dual clutch transmissions. So you don't get that step feeling where one gear up, like the car doesn't grab gears, it doesn't go like one step above the other. It's just sort of like a very linear rubber banding kind of thing, right? Which brings me to my main point about the Niro Hybrid, because it is actually a very, very decent car to drive. And I am super impressed that in this segment, you can actually get a car that offers some semblance of positive driver dynamics. Of course, this is by no means a sports car or a performance car, so I wouldn't be chucking this car around corners or like gunning it as well. It is still a CAT A car. You must remember that the Kia has taken pains to spec the car within 129 brake horsepower in Singapore, which means that it qualifies for CAT A under the A2 band, which means you do save some upfront cost when purchasing the car as well. But even for a car that is economy oriented or geared up or set up to achieve a good level of fuel economy, it's really nice to be able to derive some driving enjoyment from it as well. And I can't really emphasize further how this is something that's actually quite rare within this particular segment of cars. If you talk about competitors of the cars, I mean, honestly, there are so many cars within this segment. But if you think about the cars in this segment, you probably think of cars like the CHR maybe, or like the Honda HR-V, Corolla Cross. All of them look nice, look pretty sporty, but not so sporty to drive. This Niro Hybrid actually is rather sporty to drive. Credit 100% to the dual clutch transmission that it has. Right, let me just navigate this. So the next point I want to bring up is that people who buy these cars, or consumers who are looking for cars in this segment, are probably looking for something that's quite well-rounded. Well-rounded in the sense where it's large enough, it looks pretty good, it drives pretty well, it's pretty economical, and it's going to be relevant to your life for a good number of years before you feel like, okay, I need to upgrade this car. And I think that's something that the Niro Hybrid offers to the consumer in abundance, because as you have seen earlier, the car looks pretty good from the outside. It's got a nice, adventurous, youthful vibe to it. It's modern, looks quite rugged as well. Inside, you've got a good amount of space. Space utilization is actually pretty awesome. You've got good economy. The hybrid system works very well, and as shown, even with many drivers, driving the same car, the car was still able to achieve 980 kilometers on one tank, which means that if you've got one consistent driver driving the car, it will probably easily do a lot more than that. And last but not least, a car that drives well. So, like I've already mentioned, I think the dual clutch transmission makes a huge difference in a car like that, and that offers you, if you're the kind of driver that you want to enjoy it a little bit, sometimes you do care a little bit about how the car moves, how the car behaves on the road, how the gears feel, then I think the Niro Hybrid is probably a very good option. Just look around this bus. Right. So by offering consumers all those things, a very balanced mix of all those things, I think that the Niro Hybrid is probably one of the most value for money cars you can buy on the market right now. If you're like a young family, or maybe you're just married and you're thinking, in a couple of years I want to have kids, and you want a new car right now, this is probably a car that's quite future-proof. Similarly, if you are using this as a second car, then I think the fuel economy portion of it and the fact that this car is not too large is going to work very well for you. And then if you're just using this car as a point A to point B car, then anything goes really. But if you're already going to spend a certain amount of money on a car, why not get as much equipment for that money, right? So in that sense, this car is very worthy as well. So it really is the kind of car that seems to have something that works for a majority of the population, which I think is a very good value proposition. And it's probably one of those cars where you could say, you could say that what's the worst that could happen with a car like that. So in a bit, next week, we are actually gonna come up with our video review of the Corolla Cross. So if by the time you watch this, we'll put the link up here, and then is it up here, yeah, and then you can probably take a look at that. But in the meantime, if you want to watch more videos like this and keep track of our honest, unbiased reviews, then please like the video and please subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.